Welcome to the Deep Chat.
All right, Kyle, something in the news. It's titled A Toxic Twist on AI for Drug Design. The question and the hot take is AI for drug design dangerous?
Well, I guess I would say almost certainly, but maybe necessarily.
Yes, I agree with you. It actually took me a second to unpack that, but that is my answer as well. Like I would say, yes, of course, it's dangerous.
If put in the wrong hands, it's an easy tool. In the wrong trained hands, it's an easy tool for creating weapons.
Right. A lot of things put in the wrong hands are easy tools for creating weapons as well. This just makes it a little easier.
In a sense, yeah, because I mean, like, you could say, here's some scrap metal, you could make this into swords, but that's not the same as, like, here's some, proteins, you can make them into a biological weapon that can wipe out a country.
Yes, it is a big difference. It is most likely dangerous, but on the flip side of it, you can also use it for looking for cures or counteracting measures, I suspect. Now, that is not in the article, but one way or another, we're going down this path. If it's not us who's using AI for drug design, it will be China. It will be a rogue state. It will be some small faction that, we're not monitoring that has access to decent enough AI where they can make this potentially happen. And they will use it.
We were referring to the article from Chemical and Engineering News, A Toxic Twist on AI for Drug Discovery, which kind of points out that they were not trying to make chemical weapons, but in their research that is for drug design, a legitimate good thing, they found it quite easy to almost accidentally create something that could be used as a chemical weapon.
Exactly. And they were really hunting for designs that benefited people. But some of the same pathways that are targeted for healing or benefit can also be targeted for destruction in some fashion. And that's what I got from the article.
Yeah, this is no surprise at all as a machine learning person. Like, to accidentally get your model to do the opposite of what you want, that's a common mistake.
Right, especially when you're given this bounded set of data, right? Because this is a fairly bounded set of data, knowing how these different chemicals interact.
I actually can't speak to that because I think it's gotten fairly complex. Some of that is probably real-world clinical trial data, but a great deal of simulation stuff goes on now that I don't fully understand. Like, I know pharmaceutical work can be done pure mathematically for quite some time before we get to, like, phase 3 trials.
Understood. This is similar to a conversation we've had in the past in some ways. We've talked about biological warfare. We never talked about the application of AI for biological warfare, like diseases and such. I do wonder how related they are. I mean, these are just questions that we're asking, but how related are they? Is AI used for the design of new viruses, new biological agents? I mean, this is very similar. I would imagine that there is a pathway to doing that as well.
I mean, I guess we have to be a little bit more specific about what the question is, but I'm going to lean towards answering no. People aren't doing that today because engineering a virus is like comic book level villainy. That's, it's also kind of stupid because you can't engineer a virus that harms everyone except the people who are citizens of your country or your group or your religion or whatever it is. I mean, you are playing with fire to try and engineer a virus. On top of that, I don't think the biology is quite there yet. Even if you had access to like the best equipment and you could use CRISPR-Cas9 to rewrite the virus's DNA, we don't speak DNA quite yet.
Right. Fair enough. So from the perspective of drug design, this is creating molecules
are the output, really, and then a profile about how they perform.
Right, and what pathways they perform on in the body, whether or not they'd be harmful or beneficial, right? And so they tweaked this design to aim towards beneficial, but wound up in some ways with harmful. What are the considerations here for the future when you look at this? Because I just see if they start to say, well, we can't do this, like, for instance, stem cells. Stem cells were persona non grata in the United States for some time, due to mostly to religious reasons, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Almost exclusively, yes. Certainly not scientific reasons.
Right. So stem cells were kind of not worked on or not used as much. I know California made some effort there to actually allow them to be used. But in that sense, it's put us behind the world, it's my understanding, when it comes to stem cell research, that there are many other countries that are far ahead of us. So what happens if we start putting limitations and restrictions on how AI can be used and how accessible it is for drug design? Does that put us behind everyone else? Or does it
100%,
or
yes.
does it protect?
It would offshore all the work.
But does it protect the rest of the world in...
Not at all.
Exactly. Okay. So you're in agreement with me. How?
Well, unless you assume that the U.S. is the most dangerous person to have this sort of stuff, then it does protect them.
Right. Exactly. So one way or another, no matter how... It seems like the way the world works is that no matter how many restrictions you put on it in one country, there's another country that's not going to have those restrictions. So what is the major point in us putting restrictions on? Now, you can have guidelines, like in this article they talk about having moral or ethical discussions embedded in the papers to say, you know, this is our view and this is our rationale. And I can appreciate that, but is that preventative in any way?
No, I think that's symbolic only. I mean, if you had asked the 9/11 bombers to swear on a book that they weren't going to hijack the planes, I think the planes would still get hijacked.
That's right. Right. See, these are hypothetical questions that I think I know what I would answer, and you keep answering the same thing. But so I'm trying to figure out, I guess the question is, so what? So what? What do we do about this? Is there anything you can even do about it, and is it even worth it? And I can't find...
Well, I got some maybes there.
Okay.
Maybe there could be hardware limitations. My understanding, I don't know the ins and outs of this could just be some urban myth, but I've heard this on multiple occasions. If you try and print a U.S. currency, like a $20 bill on your common printer, it will automatically, like, adjust the colors. You can't print money green, or I guess money blue now, in these certain hues. That your printer has a physical hardware limitation that is an anti-counterfeiting measure in it somehow.
Really? That is...
Pretty sure, yeah.
That is interesting. I mean, though, an industrious enough nation, I suppose, would find a way around that. But now we're talking level of nation.
It's a barrier.
Right? It's a barrier.
Yeah. I mean, a smart couple of college engineers could get around it, I suspect. But, you know.
Yeah. It's, in security, we call that security through obscurity, right? It just make it harder.
A bit, yeah.
Make it harder. It's going to take a lot more time to make it happen. And in that process, perhaps you'll be found out.
So I'm largely ignorant of biology. I know it would be useless to say we're going to monitor everybody's source code to look for people who write viruses. Like, that's ridiculous. You can't tell from the code if it is a virus or not, if someone is cagey. I don't know that there are, like, a clear right and wrong in biology. Like, anytime you see somebody printing the spike protein, that's a bad person. You know,
right.
Maybe there is no way to what are we preventing?
Well, I don't think there can be, just by the very nature of the article that we read, that they're saying it's discovering new chemical weapons. So if we don't even know what they look like until we see them, how is a computer going to know, okay, this one, or hardware going to monitor it and know this is a chemical weapon? I mean, I could see a future where we've characterized all of them, just like the project that characterizes all of the proteins, but I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, maybe this is a taxonomy effort, a preventative measure. Let's go catalog them all.
Right. I could see once you know, maybe that's the solution, is literally have the United States government or fund a project where they use AI design to design all the potential chemical weapons that could exist based on known pathways, and then, as you said, the hardware that actually will accomplish this task, we don't know enough about it, would be preclude them from doing something like that, would run a check on it. Because I can't think of another way. It's otherwise.
Yeah, forget the hardware. I think we're onto it. I think there should be investment in looking for chemical weapons that might exist, as paradoxical as that might sound, but towards an effort of knowing what defenses we need.
Yes, because it's going to happen one way or another. We'd rather be ahead of it and understand how, why, and what the shape of those look like, so that we can mitigate. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think that's the argument for the NIH funding some of the things they did overseas, right? We funded in that Wuhan Institute, and this is not a political thing at all. We funded in the Wuhan Institute some work in looking into coronavirus. And why did we do that? We did it because we needed to characterize it more so we know that when it does escape, we know better how to deal with it. Now, did we accomplish that?
Yeah.
That's all arguable. Probably not. But at least the effort was there in trying to understand it ahead of time, right?
Yeah, and a very plausible path for us to have to make the claim that we accelerated the vaccine process in some part due to research like that.
Exactly. I think if you were to pitch this idea to a lot of politicians or just lay people, there might be a lot of pushback. But I suspect if you were to pitch this to chemical engineers or AI specialists, they would say, yep, that's absolutely the best way. What do you think?
Yeah, I think actually the AI is a distraction to all this. I mean, chemical weapons are nothing new. We're over a century now that we've had them, and much more than nuclear. We've all agreed, like, no one's supposed to use chemical weapons. This is awful stuff, everybody. And even the worst of us seem to pretty much stick to that. So that doesn't mean that chemists just gave up their hands and stopped thinking about things. Surely they were already doing these sorts of things before AI was around. Whatever ethics or processes or whatever they've cooked up, they should stand the test of time. All this does is give people a better tool to do this stuff faster.
Yeah, very good point. And I like the ending you put on that. It allows people to do it faster. And we have to remember that AI is not something like a panacea. It is not artificial general intelligence completely whole cloth figuring things out. It is a tool that allows us to do things faster, whatever those things are. In the bulk of what AI is used for, it's just improving our process. Is that a good assessment of AI?
Yeah, in fact, this is the AI to be scared of, not the artificial general intelligence, but the one that is just a tool that accelerates and makes it easy and cheap to find new chemical weapons, and that gets into the wrong person's hands.
Exactly. And we 100% agree on that. Anything that's applicable to warfare that AI both speeds up and or allows for chaos, that's where it's scary. But the AGI,
I would say fully optimizes is the right phrase.
Yeah, that's probably a good one. Fully optimizes for warfare or destruction in some way. It's not the meandering path to destruction. It is the straight shot to the bullseye, right?
Yeah.
And
it does what you ask of it.
Exactly. We have to remember that humans are behind this. There's not some AI just doing it. They set out for a purpose to create beneficial drugs. And they wound up creating chemical weapons as well.
So not getting their bonuses this quarter.
Well, maybe they are. Who knows? I mean, there's always military applications to everything, right? Sure. I guarantee you there's people on the back end saying, guys, we need to talk about this. Let's have a conversation about how we're going to manage this. I mean, yeah, I would suspect.
And I think there is a good room here for some cultural worry. People should be aware of and concerned about this.
Absolutely.